Thanks, listeners, for joining us for our regular update as we go outdoors with Nevada Department of Wildlife Conservation Educator Julie Gabrielson is joining us. I cannot believe it is the end of August. We're into hunting season. Fall is right around the corner, Julie.
Where did it go? I don't know where it went.
I don't know either. Remember when we were just little kids, go to the swimming pool, lay out on our towels, and just summer lasted forever and ever.
It did. And I got to say, I'm glad summer's back at least this week after last weekend, because I definitely was not ready for winter last weekend.
I know. And I think that's kind of a rude wake-up call for the wildlife, too, out there.
Yeah. I imagine they probably were a little curious. What is this powdered sugar happening on my mountain right now?
Yeah. Glad that little dusting was just short-lived and a reminder. Well, with all that in mind, you have got a busy schedule, lady.
Yes, we do. We just wrapped up helping out with the Nevada Outdoorsman in Wheelchair and their big hunt last week. And that is always such a great time. If you're not familiar with that hunt, it's specifically for disabled hunters that come out with landowner tags for pronghorn antelope. And it's such a great event. I mean, we treat them to a full week of a hunt camp style event, and they're fed and they're taken to some really unique areas around the community to see the community before the hunt itself. And then, of course, the hunt itself is always just, the finale and the grand finale at that. But we just wrapped that up. And if you're not familiar with that organization, I encourage you to look them up on Facebook. Or, feel free to give me a call and I can give you some more information on them, as well as leading you to some of the board members that could help dial you in there. But that's Nevada Outdoorsman in Wheelchair. And again, that hunt last week was really just a fun time. And we always look forward to going out and helping out with that.
Oh, Julie, thanks again for your support in that of NDOW. I know how meaningful that is to participants and to people who can support it. And this is your opportunity if you want to join in supporting it.
Absolutely.
So, cool.
Yes. So we've also got, school has started. Again, back to where did summer go? And our education staff, that's Nicole St. John, she is scheduling for wildlife ed programming this fall. You can reach out to her at 777-2391 to schedule. You can look around your school for a flyer as well. She has put together a really nice, basically like a menu of options that she can get into the schools and help you out with your programming with. There's also an education adventure fair. That's going to be Tuesday, September 11th from 5:30 to 7:30 at the museum. That's the Northeastern Nevada Museum. It's going to be various outdoor education partners. That's going to be Nevada Outdoor Schools, Mybrary, the California Trail Interpretive Center, and they're hosting a local teachers night. And the goal is to introduce all of our local teachers throughout the community, how we can support them through the programming that we offer. And that goes for all three of those other organizations as well. So you're going to get a really good in-depth feel of what those programs are and how they can roll into your curriculum and into your classroom on a daily basis. It might be a one-time thing. It might be a daily thing, a weekly thing. It might be a field trip. There's all different types of options that they have between us and those other three partners. It is a tabling with short presentations, but it's really a great opportunity to ask questions about those programs.
That sounds wonderful. And it will be at the Northeastern Nevada Museum, and they play an important role in education as well.
They do. And what we have found is, a perfect example is our Trout in the Classroom program. We've been hosting, as NDOW, we've hosted that program throughout the community for, 25-ish years. And it's amazing how many educators have never heard of it before or know very, very little about it and how it works, what's available to them. And so the more that we can just keep this information going out there, the better it is. And so these great events like this are really critical for getting that information out to our educators.
All right, so look forward to that. The Education Adventure Fair, Tuesday, September 11th. What is this? A fly fishing float tube clinic? Sounds fun.
Yes. I say it's going to be our last fishing clinic of the year, but that's not true because we'll probably have an ice fishing clinic coming up and others like that. But this will be the last fly fishing clinic for the season anyways. And it is based out of a float tube. It's going to be at Angel Lake on September 14th. You can join our angler educators for an introduction to fly fishing from a float tube. You're going to learn how to get in and out of that float tube safely because sometimes that can be a little bit of an awkward challenge. How to maneuver the float tube, how to cast from the float tube and to strip a fly. We provide all of the fishing equipment if you don't have any. So we've got rods, we've got tubes, we've got waders and fins. We've got everything you need to be able to participate in that. This is a really, a great opportunity to not just to learn if you like fly fishing, but also to learn what kind of equipment you might want to buy if you haven't made that investment yet. It's suitable for anglers 12 and up, and fishing licenses are required. You can get that at ndowlicensing.com if you don't already have it. But for more information on that, there are still a couple spots open. We had another instructor come on board to allow us to open up a couple more spaces. And so you can call Nicole St. John at 777-2391, or you can also call me.
That's wonderful. What fun. Saturday, September 14th. But get signed up in advance so you can get all the details, but don't miss out on the chance.
Yeah, and you do need to register ahead of time for that. So you can go to our NDOW events page. You can find that event on Facebook or on our website, and you can get registered through that.
Fantastic, Julie. Thank you. And then, as I mentioned sort of at the top of the broadcast, hunting season is already underway for some different species.
It is. And it is in full swing. We're getting closer to the end of archery deer season at this point, but it's not only been archery deer season. We've had pronghorn hunts, and we've had some depredation, and illegal weapon hunts as well. And that's just something to kind of keep in mind when you're out in the field, whether you're a hunter or, you're out scouting, or you're out, just at the range practicing. There's multiple hunts going on at any given time frequently. And so be aware that, if you're driving down the road and it's archery deer season and you see a truck off the side of the road that looks like maybe it was a quick entry, they might be on a stalk. Or be aware, if you're an archery hunter, that there might be an illegal weapon hunter in the area as well for one of those depredation hunts. So just, having that situational awareness of what's going on out there, and being the courtesy to the other hunters and the users of the landscape at the same time. Just be aware of that.
Yeah, those are really good tips, Julie. Thank you.
Yep.
And then obviously the bird seasons are firing up.
Bird season's happening soon. It's coming right around the corner, just a couple days. Bird season will start on September 1st. Small game guides are available in the office. Some other things to keep in mind with hunting season is chronic wasting disease management. CWD is fatal to deer, elk, moose, and it's caused by a misfolded protein or prion. Nevada is free of CWD, but it is present in neighboring states. State law dictates that Nevada hunters that hunt out of state are not allowed to bring any portions of the spine or the brain matter back into Nevada and crossing state lines with them. CWD was recently detected close to our border in Bishop, California. So we have initiated a mandatory sample in the western part of the state. You can find out more about that at the NDOW.org and look up chronic wasting disease, and we do have a page specific for that. We do have numerous check stations that are scheduled to be manned throughout deer season. They are starting the beginning of October for those. They're going to be at Ely Loves, Austin Junction, which is at the SR 305 and US 50 intersection, and the Biawawi Rest area right off of I-80 between Carlin and Battle Mountain. We have multiple weekends that we've got that set up for multiple days. Some are half days, some are full days. We will be posting that full schedule on Facebook, and it can also be found on the website as well. There's also other options for sampling. If you can't make it to one of the check stations, but you come through town where one of the offices, has the availability to do that sampling, we can do it for you. But it is recommended that you call us ahead of time to make sure that we have somebody on hand that is proficient at taking those samples. It is kind of it can be a little bit challenging to get in there. So sometimes those of us that haven't gone through the training yet might not be as good about it as some of the biologists that have been out there doing it. So that is an option. You can also do a self-sampling option. And what happens with that is you send an email or you reach out to us, and we will send you all of the information to include a how-to video and a sampling packet of where you need to send everything back to, and all the instructions on how to do that yourself. So there are options to helping us out with that. The more samples that we collect, the more information that we get, the more data we can put out there and know just what we're looking at for CWD in the state. Again, we don't have it in the state, and that is our entire goal, is to keeping it out of the state.
And that's the beauty of the work that Julie and her crew do with conservation awareness, is that it really does take everybody, all the anglers, the hunters, whether you're a sportsman or woman or not, you just enjoy the backcountry, but, to participate in these programs and then to keep an eye out for things, even like this next category of, watching for bighorn sheep and domestic sheep and reporting that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys. We're a limited number. In comparison to our users, our field users. So citizen science is an incredible resource for us, and we want to use it as best we can. So we want to hear from you. Pathogens carried by domestic sheep tend to be fatal to bighorn sheep. So we're committed to promoting the separation of those species. We want you to report any sightings of wandering bighorn that are outside of the known use areas for them, and also report to us domestic sheep that are within or near, bighorn sheep habitat. So give us a call and let us know if you're seeing anything. Even if it's kind of questionable, let us figure it out. If it's questionable, we can do the research and investigate into it. But we definitely want to hear about that and help keep the health of our herds, our bighorn sheep herds, at best and optimum levels as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's great. And as you mentioned, 1-800-992-3030. There's also an app for reporting anything that's suspicious in the field. Oh, that's right. You've got that right there. Operation Game Thief. Just because you don't want people to get in situations they might not be able to get out of.
No, absolutely. And, and that even though that particular phone number is really intended for suspicious activity, you can use that number to call in other things as well. If you don't have access to one of the office numbers or it's after hours, you can still use that number for if you see bighorn sheep where they shouldn't be or domestic sheep where they shouldn't be. They'll get it to the right people if that's the case. But yeah, that 800 Operation Game Thief is what that is really a great resource if you're out in the field, because it's a busy time of year, and it's just going to get busier for the next couple of months. If you see something suspicious out there, whether it be a carcass on the ground that looked like maybe this was not natural and something was left that it shouldn't have been, or it just really looks suspicious, or you see people doing suspicious things out there, don't approach them. Let us take care of that. Just call it in and give us all the information. The tip app that you mentioned, NDOW tip app, that is an app that you can download to your phone, and you can do all of this anonymously through the phone number or through the app. You can call in and report any crimes or potential crimes that you might have seen.
Thanks, Julie. Julie Gabrielson is our guest. She's conservation educator for Nevada Department of Wildlife here in Elko. And that is all contained within the topic of law enforcement, as we've been talking about hunting, and we do see more hunting going on in some residential areas.
Yeah, and it's kind of just an ongoing thing from year to year. Spring Creek's got a lot of residential deer, and some of them are pretty nice deer. And so it can get tempting, and not the rules are not always known of what you can and cannot do out in those areas. So you really pay attention to what those regulations are, not just on the NDOW front, but also on the property front, Spring Creek Association or private property and landowners. You've got to respect those boundaries that they have out there. So know your target. That species identification is really important. Having multiple animals in a sight window is really just not a safe shot, no matter what firearm you're using for your hunt. But these are just kind of some of those things that go into an ethical hunt while you're out there. If you're real close to a housing area, you might want to think about finding a different place to go hunt. And there's lots of open space. We have got a ton of open space out here in the northeastern part of the state, and we're really fortunate for that. So use it.
Yep. Use that open space, and don't make your neighbors nervous either.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that leads into, knowing your target, what it is that you're hunting. Right?
It is.
Yeah.
And we actually started adding some of those types of things into our game regs. showing, the different species and full pictures of them, so that there's hopefully fewer cases of misidentified species and essentially illegal take, because they're taking an animal, not even intentionally, without the correct tag for it. So, really know those targets. If you're out there elk hunting and you're not 100% sure, what's the difference between an elk and a moose, find some information. YouTube is amazing. You can find it for all kinds use it for all kinds of things. We've got pictures. We could even show you, mounts in the office if there's really any kind of a question that you feel like pictures are not giving you the general information of what you're looking for. But we can help with that in a lot of different areas, not just moose and elk per se. Some of the common violations that we see this time of year are shooting from across a road. Loaded firearm in a vehicle. And what that means is that a round is actually chambered into the gun. It's not just the magazine can be in there and have rounds in the magazine, but once you take one of those rounds out and put it in the chamber of the gun itself, that is considered a loaded firearm. And that includes OHVs. So any kind of motorized vehicle that you're out there with, that includes OHVs. That when it comes to a loaded firearm, that would also, rolling over into archery, would include an arrow knocked onto the bow and ready to draw back and make your shot. So that's another common violation. Carrying another person's tag. We see this a lot with kids and their parents. Parents want to hang on to it. They want to make sure they don't lose it. Find a different way to not lose it. That your child needs to carry their own tag, whether it be in their backpack. Put it in a Ziploc. I've heard this story many times, and I think it's a great alternative. Put it in a Ziploc and strap it to the buttstock of their gun. And that allows them to have it, because they're carrying their own firearm as well, and they have it on them. It's going to be real close to them and not be able to lose it that way if you strap it on well. And then the last of our common ones is the failure to punch your tag. So what happens is you down an animal and you get up to it and you field dress it, you load it up, you do everything that you need to do to, properly care for it, but you forget to punch that tag and put the critical information on that tag and then attach it to your animal. So that needs to be done before you start processing that animal in any way.
All right. Those are all really important rules. And as Julie's described, everyone makes mistakes, but especially if you've got others in your hunting party, everybody can work together and kind of, police each other,
they
right?
Can.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Super.
Give everybody a job.
Yes. Yes. And do, recreate safely. It's sad, but it seems as though every year we have accidents, and some of them are fatal and some of them involve firearms. So extra safety,
They
please.
do. They do happen. And that's that really comes down to a lot of the regs that we have, as well as the teachings that we get in hunter education. You cannot beat an in-person hunter education class for the firearm safety and the handling safety. It's very repetitive, and it teaches finger off the trigger and no loaded firearm in a vehicle. And so there's a lot of these accidents that, all of them can be avoided, and it really comes down to safety. So we definitely want to, we push hunter safety across the board throughout the entire season, and actually throughout the entire year. We really want to see people out there enjoying their time and doing it safely, and then it avoids any of those potential tragedies that might pop up.
Yeah, thanks, Julie. That's an important reminder. Department of Wildlife does do, thanks to the volunteers, you are administering those hunter education courses. So,
we are.
Yes.
We actually just had one last Friday, and we will have one or two more before Christmas. Is what we're aiming for. But the bulk of our season for hunter ed classes in this region run from about late January until May, right before the open or the close of tag applications. So that's the bulk of ours, where we have one almost every weekend. But we do try to kind of intersperse some throughout the rest of the year, knowing small game, and upland game is opening, and people want to get out there for the birds and upland game, style hunts as well. And so we try to provide for that as well.
Thank you, Julie. We're talking about any number of subjects related to recreating, enjoying our public lands, and caring for the wildlife, of course, that call it home. And a lot of people listening, I run into people all the time, Julie, they love this program in particular because they love the wildlife. A lot of people, they spent their entire childhood and they were hunting, but now they don't hunt, right? They get out wildlife watch. There are a lot of hunters who are retired from hunting, right? And they care about the wildlife.
Well, and it's funny because I love being out there and just exploring, whether I have a hunt season or not going on. I personally have not drawn a tag for 3 years now, which is fine. I'm okay with that. It's my turn, to not draw a tag. But I'm still out there, and I may not be, out in hunting areas during hunting season, but I am out there and constantly, seeing what I can find out there. I walk in the mountains multiple times a week and I hike, and it really is about that appreciation for our landscape and the wildlife. I mean, once you kind of get into it and you just develop this absolute love for it. And for some of those other retired hunters and people that love it just like we do, come volunteer for us.
That's perfect. That was what I was hoping a great segue into, helping out with all these species, whether it's in education, encouraging young people to appreciate the outdoors. You're always doing classes, courses, and even some conservation groups are doing repair projects.
We do. Yeah. We've got lots of opportunities for volunteers, and it can be just a one-time event, like a guzzler build where you're out there for a single day or a weekend, or you could become like an actual volunteer instructor where you help us out multiple times a year with hunter education or angler education, or you help out Nicole with going into some of the classrooms and help with some of her programs. Lois Ports does a lot of birding for us and helps out with bird identifications and getting some students out with that. And so that's fairly new for us in the last couple of years as well. So we've got lots of different ways that we can accommodate your specific skill when it comes to outdoor education. So if you've got a really unique way to enhance somebody's education for the outdoors and even, increase their passion for it, come see us. We'll help put together a course for you to start teaching for us.
Super cool. Thanks, Julie. We just want to encourage all the listeners we can to get as much as you can out of your public lands. Well, it is bat season. We know we're heading into September, but
it is. And we have received several bat calls. It's bat migration time. So if you see a bat roosting outside on your property, in your eaves, trees, screens, just let it be. Don't touch it. Just let it go. It's probably going to move on after a couple of days. They're on the move. The juveniles are dispersing from their original home, and they're beginning their migration to move on. So they might be found during the day, and if they are found during the day, but they're up high, they're not on the ground, and still sitting still, it's just really best to leave them alone. Keep your pets, keep people away from it, and just give them a day or two to move on. When we want you to call us is when a bat is found in a home, if a human or a pet has come into contact with a bat, and if the bat is not behaving normally. What that means is if they're alive on the ground in the daylight and not moving around and they're just hanging out down there, don't touch them. If for whatever reason you feel like you need to make sure that you're wearing some gloves. But we encourage you just to leave it alone and give us a call and let us take care of it. Most bats do not have rabies, but every year we submit bats for rabies testing, and we do usually see 1 or 2 in the Elko area come back positive. So it's really best to be safe and just don't touch it and give us a call and let us help out with that.
All right. That's great advice. And for our other winged creatures, you just wrapped up some surveys with the Audubon Society.
Yeah, it was the West-Wide Shorebird Fall Surveys. That's, as you said, in coordination with the Audubon Society. This survey is really done over 100 wetland sites across the West, and they were originally surveyed about 30 years ago. They provide a snapshot of the shorebirds, and when you think of shorebirds, you're thinking killdeer, the avocets, the sandpipers, and many others. During their spring migration, a picture of that condition of it gives us a picture of the condition of the wetlands and a comparison to how the previous survey results were.
Nice. And as always, you can find this information either online or look up a YouTube, but there are certainly websites available like audubon.org, and that'll get you some of the information that you need. So
they have a wealth of information in there on multiple different surveys, as well as just all the great birds that you can come across out there.
Yeah, we are definitely blessed to have that. So many different species. And speaking of, fishing year round.
Fishing year round. We're one of the fortunate ones that get some fishing year round. Lamoille Creek was stocked for the Labor Day weekend, so it might even be a little bit cooler up there for you. I haven't looked at the temperatures for the weekend, but it's supposed to be a pretty decent weekend from what I've been told. Also, the harmful algae blooms, those watches are still going on around the region. So just pay attention to that and be aware that if you see some of those heavy algae areas, just maybe move to a different area around some of those waters. Fishing's been really good out at the Ruby Marshes for largemouth bass. And we're starting to work out some more of the details for development of the community ponds. Thought we'd give a tiny little update on that. I don't have a ton, but we did have a joint meeting with some of the partners to start working on the scope of work that we're going to work on, getting quotes for what some of those things might look like as far as an engineering standpoint, and starting some of the permit application process to allow us to do some of the work around those ponds as we need to.
That's so exciting. A lot of heavy lifting's been accomplished. You have city and county folks all on board. You got the water rights you need. This is an urban pond, I guess it would be called, at Sharps Access just off the 12th Street Bridge. And it's going to be an amazing complement to our community.
Well, and there's a second piece that we purchased as part of these ponds. And the primary access point will be off of Opal Drive for it. And
even better.
Yeah. It's a much safer, ideal place to have the access for it. And there's multiple ponds between the two properties. There'll be 3 primary ponds that we'll be working on to make them a great recreational and outdoor area for our community.
That's so neat. I know I was telling Olivia about that. She said, just when I move away, all this cool stuff. I said, well, we're making it better so when you move back.
There you go. Raise your own kids, right?
Yes, we got a scheme going, don't we? She loves her natural environments. Thanks to, of course, it's back to school, but her biology teacher at Elko High School, shout out to Kristen Birdsell, who really got her excited about that. So I guess we can just kind of quickly conclude. We have some time, though, for the operations end of things. You have a wonderful staff in the NDOW office who are ready to help people with all kinds of opportunities.
We do. Sydney and Natalie do a great job up front, and just come on in. If you've got a question about something, if they don't know it, they're going to find somebody that does for you. One of the things that we've got going on right now is the first come, first serve tags. Those are tags that people have turned in prior to the opening of the hunt. But we want those tags to still be used. So it's a system that you can go into through our licensing site and see what tags have come up, and you can purchase it right then and there. And then go out for your hunt. You do have to pick those tags up in the office. They can be mailed to you, but you got to watch when you're in that checkout portion of the purchase, which one you ask for, because if it's too close to your hunt, you might not have time to receive it by mail. So you might need to schedule to come in and pick it up in the office. And so that's one of the cool things that's going on. We've got the Himalayan snowcock free use permits can be done online or in the office. Again, the upland game opens up on September 1st. And return tags is another thing that we deal with. Again, those return tags that roll over into the first come, first serve. What happens is after they're returned, they go into a system that just automatically generates when they're going to hit the first come, first serve system. So it's, you've got 24 to 48 hours after it gets turned in that it might show up randomly in there. There's no set time of when it's going to come up. So those return tags, we must receive them in the office at least one day prior to the opening day of that hunt. You can download the forms at ndowlicensing.com, or you can get one at the NDOW office. But all of the information is on the form that needs to be done with it. But we do have to receive that tag in hand in the office at least one day prior to the hunt.
All right. So a little bit of housekeeping to do. And as we mentioned, it's always nice to visit because you can see Ruby. Is she the Rosie? Is she a boa?
Ruby
the Rosie boa.
The Rosie boa.
Yes.
Yep, she's in there too. She actually shed her skin 2 weeks ago. It was quite the event for the office.
Yeah, she was a snake that was seized because she shouldn't be living with people in that situation, and so you got to rehome her.
Yep.
And now she has a public life there in the lobby.
She does have a public life. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes she's not so social. She tucks down into her little rock cavern. Other times she looks like she's trying to climb out of the cage. Woo. But we're all we all make sure that lid's on pretty good.
I was going to say, otherwise there's your mouse control.
Yes.
Yep. So visit NDOW offices. They're on East Old Highway 40 head east, and then on Youth Center Road. It's that turnoff across from DMV area.
A little bit further.
Oh, further.
Yeah,
Okay,
we're a little bit
more.
further out.
Okay.
We're down the road from NYTC as well as NDF. And so we're about, probably 2 miles from Albertsons.
Oh, yeah.
2.5 miles from Albertsons. So a little bit further than DMV.
All right. Easy to get there. And again, we'll find all this information and more online at NDOW.org. They have a YouTube channel, as Julie's talked about, just all kinds of ways. Julie, thank you again for your time. It's always inspirational, and we appreciate everything you do in the community, and you're representing an amazing staff of professionals. So.
Thank you. They're a great staff to work with, all of them.